Okay, so the next button that we've got is the issue drawing. So if you've finished your drawings and you've created PDFs of your drawings, you can issue them to our customer portal, or you can just mark them as being issued. This way, when you issue something through the system, it records the date at which the drawing was handed over to somebody, whether it be the fabrication shop or to your customer. Each time you make a revision change and you update your drawing, a history of that file then can be looked at, and you can view what that file went through, including changing marks, which is a really good tool. The next one obviously is if you've issued something and you didn't actually give it to somebody, you need to unissue it. You can then select to unissue that item. Over the many years of working in the steel and mechanical industry, I've found that there's a system that needs to be in place to allow us to be able to share our documentation with customers. And that means any kind of documentation such as your DWG, your DXF, your PDF, your NC1, DSTV, CNC file exports, and your plate DXFs. That particular documentation really needs a way of being able to transfer to customers quite easily. And as a result, I'd also want to know whether or not my customer or the fabrication shop, if I issue to them as well, have downloaded it and received it, so that I've got a receipt that says that they've actually got it at their end. Now, over the many years, I've been using Dropbox to share documentation with customers, or I've simply just zipped it up and sent it in an email if it's a small project. But it's been a while since I've worked on small projects, and usually there are a lot of drawings when it comes to steel detailing. But usually Dropbox works. However, there's no receipt of the confirmation of the documentation from behind. So I've got a system that I've built in to Steel Designer Pro that allows us to be able to track our drawings and also produce a drawing register or a transmittal. And the way to do that is simply just by issuing documents. There are 3 different places that you can issue documents: in the consolidation pane, and also in the document manager, which if you click on the document manager, now I'm working in multi-user environment, so it's got to grab data from the cloud. So it does take a little longer to bring up my files. And here you can see in the right hand status column that these documents have all been issued to the cloud. If I don't click on anything and click the issue button, it will give me a list of all of the documents that have been issued to the customer, and a current list of the files that they have been issued as well. So if I click on issued, and you can see our issue to customer table. So every time we issue a document, it gets added to this table and the date gets collated. As you can see here on the right hand side, we've got these columns, and you can see a couple of days, or yesterday in this case, I issued all Rev A drawings, and I also did it a couple of times on the same day. So what it does is it increments the number of issues on that day, and you can see it's gone from Rev A to Rev B to Rev 0, and then I had on this day revised it so that Rev B for these 2 particular drawings have gone. The thing is that this will keep growing as I keep issuing documents to my fab shop or to my customer, and I can then see the history of which revisions went where and on what date, which is pretty cool. I can also export this out to an Excel spreadsheet, which you can use to copy and paste into your own document management system. Now, this is also mimicked when I go to issue a document to my customers. It's mimicked in our document management system. So when we add contacts and send files to contacts, there's an email that is generated with the link. And if you haven't used our system before for the first time, you will be given a username and a password to gain access to be able to download the files. So this is sort of like a register of all of your drawings that have ever been issued or handed over to a fabrication shop or to a customer. I'm going to go through how this actually works step by step, and I'll show you how powerful it is for getting access to files as well. Okay, so let's have a look at this in more detail. If I close off the interface, you can see in our consolidation pane there is a date issued column, and that date issued column tells us whether or not the last drawing that we've revised has gone to a customer. So I'm going to revise these two Bs for both plate 4 and plate 5 in my documentation. And to do that, I'll just fire up the document manager. My two drawings are in order, 4 and 5. If I select both of them, and I'm not going to swap out the sheet template or update the bill of materials, I'm going to save it as a PDF. I don't want to see the PDF. Sometimes you might want to view the PDF before you issue them. I'm going to change the revision, and I'm going to bump the revision to say Rev 0. They've been checked. Now it's going to go for manufacture. And now I'm going to put my initials in. Today's date. This drawing was checked by a figment of my imagination. So in this case, I'm just going to go Rev 0. So we're going to go manufacture, checked by, and then manufacture, approved by. If you've got somebody that approves your drawings, I'm going to click OK. I'm not going to leave the drawing open. I'm going to create the PDF. So if I click on the open commit and pull this across, and you'll see that it opens the drawing up. The drawings are not complete. This is just an example of how the issued documentation works. And you can see that every time I bump the revision on my drawings, it keeps a list of the revised drawings. So if I was to just go back to that drawing that just opened up before, you can see that all the revisions are still remaining in the drawing. Now PDFs have been created of those files. It says here that they have not been issued, so if I was to just close that off and go Control S, Control Q, you can keep it open and go straight to issuing the documents. You'll notice that over here on the consolidation pane for those two documents that Rev 0 is now the latest version of those files, but they haven't been issued. And it's telling me with this little email symbol here that I have to issue these in order to get them fabricated, and they've changed. So you can simply select them here and issue them, or alternatively for the welded members you could do the same thing here as well. Or if you're doing multiple different types and you want to capture the whole lot, you're better off going to the document manager to issue them. Select the checkboxes to have those issued, and then go to issue. And now that we've issued the drawings, you can see that the last column that's been added is our last two revisions on our plate 4 and plate 5. So now we can issue those. So we're going to issue them to the customer portal, and you can see that I've created a contact here. It's just as simple as adding a data card, filling in the email and addressee that you're going to send the links to download the files. If we go back and we go to issue to web portal, click on the name of the contact. In this case I'm sending them to me, and I'm going to issue them. Now the bottom row ticks were set by default to select anything that existed that was created as those files, and they would have been collected and uploaded. But in this case all I had was PDFs, which is shown here under the PDF column. So they're now being issued to the customer portal. And if we go back and close this off and do a Control S, Control Q for a rebuild, you'll now see that those two files have been issued to the customer portal under the issued column as Rev 0s. So now I've received an email with a link. If I click on the link, it'll take me to the login page. Then go to the issued documents page and select the project that I'm working on. And we can see the same setup. Now we can individually download the latest revision of the file by going to the button that will show for that file and click it and download it and open it. So there's Rev 0. So that's come off of our web server. We can download the whole lot by selecting everything and go selected, or we can grab the latest, or we can grab all. We can even view the document's history. So in this case, if I wanted to view document 5's history, I can click on the history button and that will show me the history of that particular file as it's been issued and on what dates and around what time roughly. The table in the interface can also be exported as a PDF file. Now going back to SolidWorks, if we have a look at a file and right mouse click it, we have a View Component History, which you can click on, which will give you the history of those files that have been issued to the customer portal. If I want to view a file, I just click on it and it will open the PDF straight from my drive if it exists in its location. If it doesn't, it will download it to that location and allow me to open it from there. So that's a little bit about the document history. You can also export all the document history from here to Excel as well. So for those that work standalone, that means isolated to one PC, and don't use our multi-user environment, we have a pretty quick sneaky feature. You can issue your documents to our customer portal, or you can just set them as being issued. What I mean by set them as being issued, so for instance, this is not a multi-user project, this is a standalone project, and I've consolidated. And if we go to the issued drawings interface, you can see that we pretty much have the same scenario when we set only to be issued and not issued to the web portal. What that means is that you're only telling the local database the date at which that document was handed over to your fabrication shop. So in this case, it's the same process as what we would normally do, except that instead of issuing to the customer portal, we just simply set the document as being issued. So I'm going to go to our document manager, and in there I'm going to set a couple of our drawings, so these last two, and make them Rev B. So I'm not going to change the sheet template or update the bill of materials. I'm going to save as a PDF. I don't want to see the PDF, and I'm going to bump the revision to B, and I'm just going to go say issued for tender. And I like putting in check by, approved by. These are just made up names. And I'm just going to bump that revision, and I'm not going to leave it open, and I'm going to update the revisions. So those drawings and their PDFs have been created. So now if I do a Control S, Control Q, you'll see that the two documents that I have revised do not have their dates issued. So now I want to issue both of those components today. So I'm going to go up into the issue drawings. The bottom two, I'm now going to set issued only, as if I was to just put them in an email, send them to the fabricate shop, or simply print them out and hand them over to a fabricator. So now I've just set them only as issued. If I hit Control S to rebuild and Control Q, you'll see the dates have come in now and the two items have revision B. And likewise, you can also see the component history of that file, and you can also view in a PDF viewer.